This is an introduction to principles that you can apply to help you interpret quantitative types of data which you might encounter in your roles in higher education. I'm Alan Donnelly, and the content for this video has been produced by myself and my colleague Dan Pearson, and we both work in the Directorate of Student Engagement, Evaluation and Research at Sheffield Hallam. You might want to view this video as a standalone resource, or as part of a series that is focused on evaluation in higher education, which has been created by colleagues in the Directorate. There will be opportunities to pause the video and reflect on the content, and if you are working in a group, to discuss your thoughts about the questions which are posed. Large amounts of data are collected across institutions and across the sector, but it does not speak for itself. More data does not mean more knowledge, and having the skills and time to interpret and analyse this data is essential for helping to diagnose issues. So rather than jumping in head first, take the time to consider what you are trying to find out. Think about what type of evidence base you might require. Through these initiatives, we hope to support staff to develop their data confidence, criticality, and capacity. Quantitative data analysis involves the collection of numerical data to quantify and describe patterns about a particular subject or topic. There is a focus on generalizing findings to the wider target population and testing hypotheses through statistical testing. It can help answer questions such as what, where, and how many. A common source of quantitative data that you might come across are in national surveys, which collect significant volumes of feedback from students. An example is the National Student Survey, where final year undergraduate students across all universities in the United Kingdom are invited to report on their experiences. This feedback provides institutions with information about how to improve the student experience, and it is also used to inform prospective students' choices and to rank institutions. The NSS itself is made up of 27 closed-ended questions, which cover 9 categories, such as teaching on my course. For each question, students indicate the extent to which they agree or disagree with a particular statement, and they are considered to be satisfied if they respond with strongly agree or agree. So let's consider an example. Let's assume that you were a course leader and you were presented with these NSS results for your course. What else do you need to know to make sense of them? So let's consider some of the options. As well as getting an aggregated total score for the scale, it is important to focus on the individual questions that are situated within them. For instance, there are 4 questions within the Teaching on My Course scale, such as staff are good at explaining things and the course is intellectually stimulating. This can indicate whether results are consistent or inconsistent within specific categories. Looking at one year's results in isolation is restrictive, as it only gives a glimpse of overall quality. But examining this data alongside previous year's results can show if there are any trends. In this case shown on the screen, a score of 76% for assessment and feedback is relatively positive, as there has been an upward trajectory across the past few years, indicating that improvement might have occurred due to actions that have been taken. Another type of internal comparison that you can undertake is to see if the experiences on your course are similar or different to those on other courses in the department. However, this must be done in a non-competitive and appreciative manner, and it isn't about performing crude comparisons for the sake of it. There might be elements of good practice to learn from other areas, or colleagues could be facing the same challenge, and this support network could enable a coordinated, collective approach to be taken. You can gain further insight by considering where your course is placed within a much wider context, as some students examine course results across the United Kingdom at the point of making their application decisions. Your course will belong to at least one subject area, and NSS results can be filtered so that it is possible to look at how satisfied students at Sheffield Hallam are in relation to the rest of the sector across groups of courses that are broadly similar in terms of subject content. You can imagine the scenario of having a course that has received the highest scores within a department, but they might be amongst the lowest when compared with the sector. However, a word of caution. The ability of the NSS and other surveys to provide important comparisons at this level can be limited. The number of students tends to be smaller, and where there are minor gaps between institutions, we cannot be confident that these gaps are meaningful, and these differences might be due to random chance. One way we can be more confident about results is to evaluate the statistical significance of comparisons rather than relying on descriptive statistics. Alex Buckley has produced some useful guidance about how to do this, and there is a reference at the end of this video if users want to find out more. Top-level NSS results can be broken down by specific subgroups, such as by gender, ethnicity, and mode of study. Can you think of any benefits and any challenges with looking at data in this way? Breaking down data into subgroups can provide insight into broad aspects of the experiences of many students, which could be used as a starting point for further investigations. For example, analysis of data carried out by the Office for Students has found that, across the sector, part-time students are particularly less satisfied about the learning community and the student voice. Groups from Asian, Black, mixed, and other backgrounds were less likely to perceive assessment as being fair. So we can check evidence from our own institution to see whether this corresponds with the sector findings. There are a number of limitations that we need to be wary of. There is a risk that results are generalized, so that an assumption is made that a common experience is had by one group of students, when we know that this is not the case. Quantitative survey data does not capture the detail and complexities of an individual's account, and other methods must be considered to understand these experiences. It is also important to consider if there are any gaps in a dataset, such as if particular characteristics have not been captured, or if any groups are underrepresented, or even excluded from taking part. If so, we will need to draw upon other types of evidence to ensure these perspectives are collated. We must always be mindful about how data is used, what it can tell us, and also what it cannot tell us. Student evaluations of teaching, such as via surveys, have many uses and benefits, but there are also some notable limitations and potential sources of bias. Furthermore, some student surveys receive quite low response rates, which indicate that the majority of students might not contribute to a single data source. This makes it necessary to draw on different types of evidence from a range of sources, the selection of which will depend on what you need to know. Data about teaching and learning is collected at many levels, such as within individual units and modules. This includes more formal types of data collection, like module evaluation questionnaires, but it can also apply to what you do to improve and understand your own practice. Those anecdotal, in-the-moment, informal reflections, such as post-it notes at the end of a teaching session. There are other types of data collected at course, departmental, and institutional level, and beyond into the sector. Another aspect to consider is the stage of the student life cycle that you are using data from. Many student surveys collect feedback from students at the end of the academic year or at the end of the course. But do you need to look at other points of the life cycle, such as at pre or post 16, the stage of applying to higher education, entry to higher education, or graduation? Finally, what types of data are in your evidence base? Have you looked at qualitative data, such as student comment, to gain a deeper understanding of participants and to provide context and meaning? The source is a useful place to start looking at other examples of data that's collected within the university, and it can be accessed via the staff internet. We're almost at the end, but I wanted to quickly mention that there is an activity worksheet to accompany this video. There are 4 tasks that build on the content that's been covered, including on the suitability of using data to make comparisons. These can be completed individually or as part of a discussion in a group. Within the document, there are links to critical reflections of the different types of data that are mentioned in the scenarios. Thank you for watching the video. Hopefully this has provided a useful starting point for building your data confidence, criticality, and capacity. The resources listed here can be visited at your own leisure, and keep an eye out for our other initiatives to find out how you can further your understanding about using various forms of evidence to inform your decision making. If you have any questions, you can provide them directly to this video by providing a comment, or you can contact us using the details that are listed on screen. We are active on our blog site and on social media, and we can also be reached by email.